Joining us now, ranking member of the House Oversight Committee, California Democratic Congressman Robert Garcia. Congressman, thanks for being with us on a holiday. Members of your committee will meet privately tomorrow with victims of Jeffrey Epstein. Here's what Chair Comer said about that.
The Trump administration is cooperating with us. We're bringing in the families and the attorneys of the victims Tuesday afternoon to talk to the House Oversight Committee. This will be Republicans and Democrats because we're going to make this information public. That's what the American people want. When we travel around all of our districts, that's one of the things that people ask. When are we going to see the Epstein files? But it's very complicated because there are victims of the Epstein files, and we want to listen to those victims and their families and their attorneys to see how best can we present this information.
So Comer there seems to suggest that this will be a bipartisan approach in speaking with the victims, trying to figure out how to best handle their information. Do Democrats and Republicans agree about what it means to be transparent in this situation? Do you see a bipartisan effort here?
I mean, look, there's been some bipartisanship when Democrats forced the release of the Epstein files, and we actually got a few Republicans to vote with us because they really weren't interested and have not been interested in transparency. I will be there with Chairman Comer. There'll be other Democrats and Republicans as we listen to the victims. I've said from day one, they have to be centered in what is happening right now. There have been horrific crimes, sexual abuse, trafficking that has happened to these women, in some cases children. And so we are very focused on transparency for the American public. We don't understand why Attorney General Bondi, why the White House continue to stonewall the full release of the documents. We have sent the subpoena out. Those documents should be in our hand. Now, this week, we're going to hear from a lot of the actual victims. We look forward to that. It's also very important that people remember the horrific tragedy and violence that they all endured.
It is important. And to that point, Ro Khanna, they're teasing that explosive press conference that we may see on Wednesday. How do you make sure that these victims are not being essentially exploited for political gain by either party?
Look, I think that's obviously really important. We have been, the Oversight Committee, certainly those of us Democrats, have been working very carefully with the families, with the representatives of any victims. Ro Khanna, of course, is a member of our committee. And so we're all working at the end of the day to ensure that we get justice for the victims and that, most importantly, they are protected in the ways that they need to be protected. And so that has been our focus, and we've been fighting for transparency. We don't understand why the White House continues to cover this up and why Donald Trump, after campaigning years on this topic, has now flip-flopped. And so I hope that the work that happens this week, that the stories that everyone's going to hear from the victims at the press conference, at the roundtable that we're having tomorrow, I hope that motivates not just the White House, but our Republican colleagues to fully support bipartisan transparency as it relates to the Epstein files.
The Oversight Committee has also now requested suspicious activity reports from the Treasury Department related to Jeffrey Epstein. These SARs, as they're called, have to do with red flags that may have been missed in Epstein's financial transactions. What do you hope maybe learned from them? And is this just another continuation of the drip, drip, drip of information that we are getting, as opposed to just a full dump of the files?
At the end of the day, I think that what we want are the full files, and that clearly continues to be stonewalled. Look, I appreciate any additional efforts that we can achieve as it relates to transparency. The more that we can get, the more documents. If there are concerns, and certainly I share those, around the way this case has been handled, and certainly there's concerns the way Alex Acosta, Trump's former labor secretary, who put together Jeffrey Epstein's original sweetheart deal, how that all came to be, what the government has known, what we have in our possession as it relates to documents, all of that information should be available to the public. When I have been home the last few days, and I'm talking to folks here in the community, everyone is asking me, when are the full files going to be released? They don't care who's on the list. They don't care how powerful those people are or what political party that they're in. They just want justice for the victims, and they want the truth.
All right. And I know that you've been pushing to get that so-called birthday book published in your hands. What are you hoping to glean from that? President Trump has said that those alleged drawings that he may or may not have sent to Jeffrey Epstein were faked, that he didn't do that. So what do you hope is in that birthday book that you may glean some more information from?
Well, I mean, to be clear, the president has said that the drawing and note that he wrote to Epstein doesn't exist. We know it exists. It's been reported on. It is apparently in this book and other documents. And so from what we understand, we'll be receiving that birthday book and note as well as other documents within about a week. And so around September 8th is the date that we have been told. And so we're glad the Epstein estate is moving forward and producing these documents. And I think that Donald Trump clearly is being caught in another lie. If a book is going to be produced, we're going to release it to the public that he's saying doesn't exist. And so we're all kind of anticipating that release here within the week.
As I'm sure you know, Politico is reporting that FBI Director Kash Patel and Attorney General Pam Bondi are expected to testify before a House Judiciary Committee in the coming weeks. What do you hope your colleagues are going to ask them?
I'm glad to see it. And everyone should be asking, particularly Pam Bondi, the same question. Is Attorney General, you said you had the Epstein files on your desk, that they had been reviewed. Why the huge turnaround? Why the cover up? Why completely just change your position on the release? And I think that the FBI director, in the same fashion, has been someone that's been calling for the release of the files for years before he was in the government. And so they should align with their position that they've had for years that had been Donald Trump's, which is a full release of the Epstein files. That is what the American public are demanding, and that's certainly what those of us on the Oversight Committee are demanding as well.
Congressman, why do you think the files haven't been released yet?
Well, obviously someone's trying to hide something. I mean, the White House clearly doesn't want the files released because there's information in there that they don't want out to the American public. I mean, what that is, who that involves, I think are the questions. And I think that the American public deserves the answers. Why all of this cover up is what a lot of us are asking ourselves. We don't understand. And so it's time to release the files. Pam Bondi has them. I hope she's asked those questions when she appears in front of the Senate. And certainly this week we'll hear from all the victims and, of course, uplift whatever they have to say.
What do you say to the critics who want you and your colleagues to focus on those bread and butter issues that Americans are dealing with, higher prices for things, and not being able to afford the cost of living and housing prices? What do you say to them? And they feel like this may be somewhat of a distraction to score political points on both sides.
I mean, look, I think what's really important is that the American public knows this. The single most important issue right now, of course, is lowering the cost for the American public. It's ensuring that people have access to health care. I mean, those are the things that people talk about and that matter. At the same time, this issue is about trust. And it's about the president of the United States betraying the trust of the American public. And if Donald Trump is going to betray you on a key campaign promise as it relates to the Epstein files, he's going to betray you by taking away your health care. And he's done that for 17 million Americans on Medicaid. He's going to betray you by not actually lowering costs, by costs continuing to skyrocket. And so I think all of these issues matter. And certainly when I'm out talking to the public, they're asking not just about health care, but they're asking about trust in government and the Epstein files. So I think it's all important.
And one of the other issues that's clearly in front and center here before you go is DHS Secretary Kristi Noem is now previewing what it may look like when we see a federal intervention in cities like Chicago. Let's listen to her, and I want your reaction.
There's a lot of cities that are dealing with crime and violence right now, and so we haven't taken anything off the table. We've been making sure that we have the resources and the equipment to go in. I won't speak to the specifics of the operations that are planned in other cities, but I do know that LA wouldn't be standing today if President Trump hadn't taken action. Then that city would have burned down if left to the devices of the mayor and the governor of that state.
Your reaction, I see you smirking there.
I mean, it's hard not to. I mean, is that a joke? I mean, just completely outrageous and out of touch. I mean, obviously, Los Angeles, besides having seen decreases over the last 10, 20, 30 years overall in crime, the fact that LA wouldn't have been standing had Donald Trump not intervened is a fabrication. All they do is they look at the TV and they lie. And I think people know across here and across the country that the National Guard and the military shouldn't be sent into cities. What cities want is support. They want additional support to hire more police officers, for more park space, for libraries. And certainly at this moment right now, when these ICE raids are happening across cities across the country, everyone agrees that, yes, we don't want, of course, criminals. If you're here and you're a criminal, you shouldn't be in this country. We understand that. But that's not what's happening. Most of the people being right now detained or abducted don't have criminal histories. They are people that are working at our car washes, at our restaurants, at our hotels. These are hardworking people, and what's happening right now is shameful.
Congressman Robert Garcia, thank you again for spending some time with us.